Hello, my friends. Day 68 of 75 refined. Let's get right into the quote of the day, and then we'll kind of do a little recap here. So it's from Mike Rowe. I already have a couple quotes in here from him, I believe, or at least this is the second, maybe. Don't follow your passion. Bring it with you. I think that's actually an excellent quote. So many people, like, oh, I want to follow my passion. Yeah, you can. Sometimes you just need to have your career fund your passions, and because you're not always going to be passionate about the thing that you do, but that's okay. All right. So right now I have my dog crying in the background. Hopefully the noise canceling on my microphone kind of covers some of that up, so you don't hear it. But yeah, I meant to get this out yesterday. Obviously today's day 69, but this is video 68, and that's because one, I had very poor internet signal where I was at the hotel, and it was just such a long day with everything going on. I am now officially a licensed minister with the Assemblies of God, so I'm officially Reverend Michael Moran, pastor, whatever. But you don't have to call me any of those things. You can just still call me Mike, because that's who I am. All right, let's get right into the recap. And before I do, please go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, follow, leave a comment. We're right at the end here. So we wrapped up the book of Acts today. And so we see a lot of things happening with major ministry in Gentile cities, warnings, there's farewells, there's arrests, trials, a journey to Rome. And this is things where things really come to a head. And I'll talk about some overlap in terms of some of the later letters that we'll look at that were written by Paul. And we'll kind of just get right into it. So Acts 17, this is in Athens. We have this moment in Acts 17. This is one of my favorite stories in the book of Acts, because it's a very cool evangelistic moment. Because what does Paul do? He looks around to see what's something that's applicable that he could use to bring the gospel to these people. He found an altar to an unknown God, and he says, "Men of Athens, I perceive that you are very religious." And then he goes on to talk about this unknown God. Let me tell you about this God. And there are many ways that you can use this example to find your own springboards for the gospel. I remember many situations where I was sharing the gospel, and I looked for these little moments that I was able to just say, oh, what church do you go to, or something like that. And if they didn't go to a church, I'd ask them, oh, you don't go to a church, let me, what do you believe, whatever. And then you kind of go into, ask them, if you were to die today, do you think you go to heaven or hell? Why do you think you go to heaven? Whatever. And I highly recommend that you follow Ray Comfort, Living Waters Ministry. I will do some evangelism training here in these videos as well. Talk about kind of that evangelism process. But I used to use a lot of different springboards to get into these spiritual conversations, which can be very, very powerful with sharing the gospel. And as a matter of fact, I went through a couple of examples with some youth group kids a couple of days ago. It was really cool. All right, so he starts with what they know. He quotes their poets, and he moves towards the talk about the resurrection, which is a very powerful. Now, here's the thing: and you even see here, some of them mocked him, some of them were curious, and some of them believed. And so you're going to get that mix anytime you go to share your faith. You're not going to bat 1,000. It's just the way it is. It's not going to be everybody, and even some of the people, man, you won't even see that come to fruition for many years, or you may not see it at all, but it does happen. And so keep heart. Acts 18, we see Corinth. Oh, excuse me. Wow. Didn't expect that. Middle of the day here, and here I am yawning. Didn't sleep very well at the conference either. But these are the kinds of things that I would normally edit out if I did a video like once a week or even twice a week. If I'm doing a daily video, I'd probably edit that kind of stuff out. But Corinth was a wealthy and very immoral port city. Think Las Vegas or New Orleans or something like that. So Paul stays a while. He stays about 18 months. He makes important connections. You see he was likely writing First and maybe Second Thessalonians during his early years in Corinth. And of course, later on we see the books of Corinthians, but he may have been writing those around the first, second Thessalonians, around those times. Acts 19, we see Ephesus. There's this power encounter. They spoke in tongues and they prophesied, and there was miracle. There's deliverance, and there was also this cultural clash because of the Artemis worship there, and so Ephesus was the center of the idol industry. This was their whole. It's how they made money. Acts 20, Paul has this farewell address to the elders in Ephesus. He says, "Be on guard for yourselves." He talks about leadership responsibility and talks to them about false teachings. It's a very emotional moment. In Acts 21 through 23, we have his arrest. So we have the arrest. He's being accused of defiling the temple. He's before the Sanhedrin, and the gospel now stands in a legal and political arenas. I mean, it kind of harkens back a lot in a lot of ways to what Jesus had to deal with. Acts 24 through 26, we have him on trial and his testimony before Felix, Festus, and Agrippa. His deal here was he wanted to share his testimony repeatedly. And what did he do? He appeals to Scripture. He was, of course, talking about his own testimony. He does share his testimony. We see that. But he appeals specifically to Scripture. But then he also wants to make an appeal to Caesar. And so God is able to use these legal systems and these legal channels for the furtherance of the gospel. And of course, Acts 27, we have his journey to Rome. We have the shipwreck, dangerous travel. He believes in God and what God's going to do. And then they're on the island of Malta in Acts 28, and this is where he gets the snake bite, and then he just kind of shakes it off, and it runs into the scurries as it comes out of the fire, bites them, and then it scurries off on the way. But and again, he's not harmed by this. So some of Paul's letters. So as I mentioned, it's likely that while he was in Corinth or Ephesus, that he wrote First and Second Corinthians. While he was in Ephesus, there's a good possibility that he wrote First Corinthians. First Corinthians is often considered one of the first books of the Bible that was ever written. It's very, very early. Acts 20, when he probably wrote Second Corinthians around that period of time. Very likely written near the end of this period. During Acts, let's see. Oh, and then Romans was also probably written around that period of time. And Romans is the next book that we're going to be reading. But during Acts 27-28, his imprisonment, that's when we get what are called the prison epistles: Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, and Philemon. But some cultural and historical things to consider here. So the Roman roads that were established enabled this travel. The Greek philosophy challenges truth claims. So this idea of being able to argue truth was very popular during this period of time. There was a lot of idolatry that was tied to economics, and Roman law provided both protection and restrictions for Paul. So there were things that he wasn't able to do, but because he was a Roman citizen, there were certain things that he was able to do. And of course, synagogues always were this starting point, and then they went out to the Gentiles. We see a lot of here. Jesus is continuing to build his church. He's confronting philosophy, idolatry, and governments, but he's sustaining his people through persecution, imprisonment, and all sorts of uncertainty. But that's it, friends. There's a lot going on here in the book of Acts. This is one that I used to read. I used to read the book of Acts many, many years ago. I would read a chapter of Acts every single day. Kind of like how there's 31 Proverbs. Well, there's 28 chapters in Acts, and I would read a chapter every single day, and then I would just take a couple of days off, unless it was February or whatever. But that was something I was really in the habit of doing way back in my early ministry days. This is, goodness, 20 years ago. I would do that. But it's a great book. I always recommend revisiting it as often as you can. But we'll get into Romans, and I'll actually put that video out later on today as well. So you'll get, once again, a 2-for-1. So that's going to be day 69. But we'll see you then. All right, talk to you soon. Love you. Bye.